Jah Rastafari. Intelligence, a working definition of intelligence, is the coordination of the senses. For artificial intelligence, it's the coordination of the different sensory pieces of equipment. For each sense, there's a personality. And for a group, for teamwork, is essentially the coordination of those personalities in the individual and in the group, and in the relationship between the artificial intelligence and the human society, for transhumanism. Now, the coordination of the senses, there is a unique solution. There is a unique solution. Obviously, the senses can only be coordinated intelligently in one way. Now, this way is what these videos are about. The coordination of our senses as they are, as they've been received, the received teaching of the coordination of our senses. Now here we have the Essene Tree of Life. Now you'll notice it's different to the one that the Kabbalists use. This is the original Kabbalah. 3 large triangles. 3 large triangles. And now these are the 10 dimensions. The 10 dimensions of string theory. And these paths are the relationships in the development of those dimensions, as we construct reality on those 10 dimensions. Each of those dimensions has a sensory input and a personality output, and they relate in this way, and only in this way. Now, this whole structure is an OOPS object for artificial intelligence, and the 64 properties of this structure are the hexagrams of the Yi Jing, but they've all got a function in the development and structure of the 10 dimensions, and how we construct the 10 dimensions, and how we unravel or solve a problem in those 10 dimensions. Now, the first dimension is the point, the focus, the point, and this is the secretary function in the teamwork. What is the point? Which page are we on? This is the secretary's function, the point, the focus, if you like, of the teamwork at the time, but the focus of our minds, the point. When that point moves, we get the first dimension, a line, and that is the perfectionist. The perfectionist sees the course of the movement, sees the consequences of action, and so can predict and perfect the right movement to move things into position. So there's the first. So the first sensory input is focusing on a point. The next sensory input is on movement. We notice movement, and that movement is the first dimension, and that movement gives idea to the perfectionist. When that first dimension moves, we get the second dimension. When that first dimension moves parallel, at 90 degrees to itself, we get the second dimension. A surface, a face. So the next function, the next sensory input is faces, surfaces. We recognize faces of our mother, father, siblings, the neighbors. We recognize faces, but we recognize surfaces. The tarmac, the grass, the rough ground, the cloth, all different surfaces. And so we can recognize faces, and that by reading those faces, like reading the face of our mother, we become empathic. We can work with each other, we can assist each other. So you get the personality of the empath. When that second dimension moves at right angles, we get the third dimension, which is space. Now we identify space by smell. Each, like the kitchen, the bathroom, the paint shop, the garden, the hospital, the school, the greengrocers, the fishmongers. We recognize different spaces by the smell. We identify a space by its smell. And we can smell, if you like, fear or comfort on others, so we become diplomatic. That becomes the personality of the diplomat, who can sense the smell and deal with the situation diplomatically. This is the space. This is the idea of fluid. The space is fluid, which gives the idea of water. This is about smelling the water. This is about the home, everything being in its right place. This is part of the schedule. This is being in the right place. Now when the third dimension moves, we get the fourth dimension. Now the fourth dimension is sound. We have sound. Sound is the fourth dimensional sense. The hertz. And the one who controls through sound is the officer, the commands, the one who determines the time. This is the time for the action. A 4 should have the arms separate. There's actually a clock in the minute hand and the hour hand. That's what a number 4 is. Just as 2 is a face, is a bust, head and shoulders. Line is just a movement line. 3 is a wave. 4 is a clock, time, sound. And this has become the officer, the control freak, the one who determines the time.